It is a protest movement that's spreading. This is the University of Southern California, one of many flashpoints across the country.
The police have issued a dispersal order on the USC campus. They've warned students that if they remain here, they will be arrested.
The kids are getting killed.
By Hamas terrorists.
By Hamas terrorists. By Netanyahu and Biden. Jeez.
Sky News has been following them, witnessing the arrests.
The men and women here will not stand in solidarity with Jews and Christians alike who are persecuted by radicals who seek to murder them. If you hate the Jewish people, you are not reflecting the teachings of Christ. And the very same people who persecute and murder Christians right now, who crucify Christians, who behead children, are the very same people who target and murder Jews for their faith for the same reason. I am saddened. I will say this, I am saddened to see that some here, not everyone, but some here, are so consumed with hate that you cannot address your brother. I will say this, if you will not stand with Israel and the Jews, then I will not stand with you.
A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier.
Congratulations, President Trump. Your bold decision to target Iran's nuclear facilities with the awesome and righteous might of the United States will change history. In Operation Rising Lion, Israel has done truly amazing things. But in tonight's action against Iran's nuclear facilities, America has been truly unsurpassed. It has done what no other country on earth could do. History will record that President Trump acted to deny the world's most dangerous regime the world's most dangerous weapons. His leadership today has created a pivot of history that can help lead the Middle East and beyond to a future of prosperity and peace. President Trump and I often say, peace through strength. First comes strength, then comes peace. And tonight, President Trump and the United States acted with a lot of strength. President Trump, I thank you. The people of Israel thank you. The forces of civilization thank you. God bless America. God bless Israel. And may God bless our unshakable alliance, our unbreakable faith.
For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before, and we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done, and most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raisin-Kane, spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill.
We are millimeters away from nuclear catastrophe. These were the chilling words from Russia's foreign ministry, not decades ago during the Cold War, but just recently, as tensions between Israel and Iran have escalated to levels the world has not seen in years.
Russia has issued the most frightening warning of the war between Israel and Iran so far, that the world is millimeters from nuclear catastrophe.
In fact, some analysts are calling this the most dangerous moment in modern history since the Cuban Missile Crisis. But this isn't just political rhetoric. This is biblical. These are the moments Jesus told us to watch for. As Christians, we must not only understand what is happening in the physical, but discern what is unfolding spiritually. Something big is happening in the Middle East, and the Bible told us to expect it. America is being warned. History is moving in a straight line. It had a beginning, and it is moving toward an end.
The clash between Israel and Iran is not just about missiles, uranium, or territory. It is part of a grander scripted performance, decades in the making, engineered to fracture global balance and push the world closer to a new order. What you've been shown is a reaction, but the real story lies in who orchestrated the tension and why now. In the last few days, Israel launched a massive preemptive strike on Iranian military and nuclear sites. Dozens of scientists and commanders eliminated, entire facilities destroyed. Iran retaliated with missiles and drones, many intercepted, some causing damage. But this isn't just a regional spat. This was ritual warfare, a pre-chosen point in the timeline where certain chess pieces were moved to provoke a bigger collapse. This strike wasn't sudden, it was scheduled, engineered, permitted. Israel didn't just act out of self-defense. The deeper mission was to disrupt Iran's growing alignment with China, Russia, and the BRICS bloc, sabotage Iran's attempt to shift oil sales away from the US dollar, and send a message to the rest of the Middle East. You either follow the Western system or you burn. Meanwhile, Iran's retaliation wasn't reckless rage. It was a calculated countermove, testing defenses, gauging responses, and showing the world it will not bow without response. The elites need global destabilization to justify centralization. One digital currency, one defense system, one global authority. To birth a new world order, they must first break the old one. What better way than triggering chaos in the most sensitive energy region on Earth, drawing in powers like China, Russia, and NATO into pressure postures, and pushing oil prices sky high, crashing economies, and blaming war instead of manipulation. The Israel-Iran war is the ignition point, not the fire. It's the start of a series of flashpoints coordinated to make the world beg for solutions to the chaos the system created. Will this become WW3? Not immediately. But it could, and that's the plan. Expect more proxy wars, cyber attacks blamed on foreign enemies, food chain disruptions, and emergency summits. The goal, to erode borders, control narratives, and usher in the peacekeeper system, centralized digital authority disguised as safety.
Israel is the epicenter of Bible prophecy. So are you paying attention?
Feels very much, and we're going to talk about this in a moment, like there are elements setting the stage for what could be fulfillments of prophecy. What most concerns you from a political and spiritual perspective when you see where we are right now with this current conflict?
Well, my biggest concern isn't really what's happening with the nations. That's a terrible concern. My concern is the church won't see this as a time of urgency. for the church. We're here to fulfill prophecy in the sense that Jesus said, when you see these things come to pass, look up, for your redemption is near. And he said, the gospel will be preached even to the ends of the earth, then the end will come.
The Middle East is rapidly changing. You know, there are prophets that say the world will come to an end in the Middle East. You know that, right? And we have weapons today that are so scary when you look.
The Israel-Iran conflict reached a terrifying new level today as the supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, released a bizarre and ominous image on X. The supreme leader tweeted a disturbing image of fireballs raging down with a man holding a sword in front of a large entrance to a castle-like structure.
As you listen in the next few moments, remember that the last days will bring many things. There are many signs that we're seeing. But Jesus said, "Peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. Not as the world gives do I give to you. Let not your hearts be troubled, neither let them be afraid."
I see skies of blue, clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself,
...2004, global warming hit the front pages. Scientists, they already admitted back in 2004 and swept all that under the carpet. They didn't know the dynamics of climate change, and thus Princeton University was charged with the task of coming up with something and coming up with something quick. Now when you talk about global warming, people get this question in their heads. They'll say, I don't believe in global warming, yet it's getting warmer every single year. So what they did was they threw out a word, and people began to chase and support the word with what's happening in the world. The conditions of global warming are absolutely 100% real. The earth is warming up. Radiation is building. Sickness is running rampant all over the earth. But why? You see, there are forces out there that mankind cannot comprehend. In 2004, everything started. What have you noticed? A change in weather phenomena, a change in earthquake activity, a change with the other objects in space. That's why we send probes all over the place. For proof of something, yes, but to also monitor. We've got satellites and craft orbiting just about everything we can, because they serve as an early warning system of what will happen to Earth. See, if something is just indigenous to Earth, maybe mankind can change it. But what we're having is not indigenous to Earth. It is not just for Earth. The entire solar system is beginning to do a wicked shimmy. And solar activity is a telltale sign of the exotic energy that's coming into the solar system.
When we try to give an explanation for what we see in the world, you have to actually see, like, what is actually happening. Every little thing about it has to be explained by your thesis. If there's something that's not explained by it, then your thesis might be wrong, because the real explanation for what's really going on explains everything that's going on. And if there's something off, you should look at that.
Decades, those with eyes to see have been aware of chemtrails in our skies. And for decades, we were called conspiracy theorists. But in 2016, while serving as director of the CIA, John Brennan admitted that chemtrails are real at the Council on Foreign Relations.
Another example is the array of technologies often referred to collectively as geoengineering, that potentially could help reverse the warming effects of global climate change. One that has gained my personal attention is stratospheric aerosol injection, or SAI, a method of seeding the stratosphere with particles that can help reflect the sun's heat in much the same way that volcanic eruptions do. An SAI program could limit global temperature increases, reducing some risks associated with higher temperatures and providing the world economy additional time to transition from fossil fuels. This process is also relatively inexpensive. The National Research Council estimates that a fully deployed SAI program would cost about $10 billion yearly.
When it really gets intense, as it is now, it's people actually believe the Bible are the only ones with wisdom who understand what's really going on. They're not shocked at all. And they're not panicked.
It would be 2020 before we learned that the sun's coronal magnetic fields were reacting, and the chemistry of its atmosphere was beginning to change, most notably in the helium. The changes we see from the ground are more due to Earth's changing magnetic field and its effect on the upper atmospheric lens through which we view the sun, such that the once yellow sun now looks more white at greater and greater angles of the day. I know many remember the look of the yellow sun. I'm just old enough to remember it looking white near the noon position and thinking, maybe it's just too bright to see the yellow properly way up there. First horseman, dressed in white, wearing a crown at the top of the sky. And the big question is, what happens next?
And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard, as it were the noise of thunder, one of the four beasts saying, Come and see. And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer.
One unusually strong solar storm hitting Earth could produce northern lights in the U.S. this weekend. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration issued a rare severe geomagnetic storm warning.
In the recent decades, the position of the magnetic poles
has been moving very rapidly.
It might not be something you usually think about when we talk about severe weather, but it has the capability to disrupt our society. I'm talking about space weather.
When you look at the sun and you look at the Earth, the magnetic field of the sun has a dramatic effect on the Earth, even though it's 93 million miles away.
We're due for a change, a swap of the magnetic polarity of the Earth. And during that process, it's been suggested that the electromagnetic field around Earth could weaken.
Who is aware that the North Pole is shifting over time?
You look at the electromagnetic field around Earth that is getting weaker and weaker. It looks like we've got 15, maybe 25 years.
Here's what we know. About every 6,000 years, there is a geomagnetic change on our planet. It's really, really bad.
The Northern Lights were a sight to see over Florida.
When you start seeing auroras down in Florida, okay, we got a problem.
Everybody who could possibly be in the know is acting like they know exactly what's coming.
What do they know that we don't know, right? I mean, they're building these underground apologetics. Is this just the natural human nature towards thinking that these are the end times?
Finally tonight, Branson versus Bezos. Who will be first to make it into space?
You do have a bunker there. Is there something you know that we don't?
No, I think that's just like a little shelter under, and it's like a basement.
Little shelter. What are you worried about?
The disaster is the complete destruction of what we call civilization. When it does go off, you're talking about 5,000 degrees Kelvin right here on the surface.
Everybody subconsciously knew something was about to happen. And I think that that's sort of where this great awakening is coming from. When this thing really gets going, it's speeding up to 100 times faster than how much it's moving now. 5% per decade, 5% per year, to 5% every couple of weeks. At that point, you only have a couple of months left.
Blue pill or red pill? A life in the dream world of the Matrix, or a plunge into the harsh truth of reality?
You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole is.
Rescuers are trying to save dozens of pilot whales after almost 200 beached themselves at King Island in Tasmania. The latest mass beaching takes the number of whales stranded in this area in the past 3 months to more than 400.
102 mammals in all have died in the past 24 hours. It remains one of nature's most heartbreaking mysteries.
The beekeeping industry is in crisis over the shocking and unexplained deaths of hundreds of millions of bees over the last 8 months. Now, this could impact all of the U.S. as bees, called the backbone of agriculture, are responsible for pollinating, get this, more than a third of the nation's crops. CBS's Janet Shamlian in Savoy, Texas, has the story.
This is what an unfolding disaster looks like in the U.S. beekeeping industry. Each of these hives can hold as many as 80,000 bees, but for reasons no one can pinpoint, the bees in all these hives and tens of thousands more have turned up dead.
Have you ever seen it this bad?
Never, not even close. The data is showing us that this is the worst bee loss in recorded history.
The government knows exactly what is happening to this planet, a magnetic pole shift. First up, the confirmation that as of the 2010 magnetic field updates, Earth's field has weakened 15%, meaning that by now, in 2024, we're likely down 25 to 30%. This is confirmed by their acknowledgement of what geophysicists and the European Swarm mission said, that the magnetic pole shift and weakening of the field is progressing 10 times faster than previously believed, and that the field is in fact undergoing a significant shift. I remember when the Swarm mission director said exactly this over a decade ago, that we are seeing the stages unfold of the next magnetic pole reversal of this planet, with the primary concern being the increased interaction between the solar wind and Earth's atmosphere and biosphere, our living world. There is acknowledgement that this is an unmitigated disaster at a global scale, worse than earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanoes, hurricanes, pretty much every other natural phenomenon, with the lone exception being a planet-killing asteroid impact. During these magnetic events, the field drops by 90%, down to only 10% of its normal strength. We've seen that several other places as well in the scientific research. The Earth's field began shifting. The climate began warming. The magnetic field began weakening, the poles shifting faster and faster. It would be more than 100 years before we'd realize that the other planets were changing too. And we would wait just as long to learn that the stars in line with the center of the galaxy were performing record outburst activity, one after another, in a line, and we're next. It would be 2020 before we learned that the sun's coronal magnetic fields were reacting, and the chemistry of its atmosphere was beginning to change, most notably in the helium. The changes we see from the ground are more due to Earth's changing magnetic field and its effect on the upper atmospheric lens through which we view the sun, such that the once yellow sun now looks more white at greater and greater angles of the day. I know many remember the look of the yellow sun. I'm just old enough to remember it looking white near the noon position and thinking, maybe it's just too bright to see the yellow properly way up there. First horseman, dressed in white, wearing a crown at the top of the sky. That takes us from 1859 to today. And the big question is, what happens next? The sun is no longer yellow. The sun appears white in the sky, so bright at the top that it looks like it's wearing a crown, with the rays going in every which direction. When the galactic magnetic reversal point reaches, it will start to dim and look red. And the people's civility will surely be stolen from them when the sun turns red in the sky. As the dust accumulates and the sun turns black, everyone will know that judgment is upon us. And then when what we call the solar micronova happens, and it blasts that material out into space, through the dust and all that material, we will once again see that pale yellow hue, but hell follows with it. The blast itself creates a titanic outburst of light across the spectrum, and cosmic rays following right on their heels. The light arrives in 8 minutes, but has the potential to burn the sun-facing region directly looking at the sun at that time. The high-energy proton cosmic ray storm that ensues will be an invisible component of the disaster, as if anyone could take their eyes away from what would be coming right at us at that time. These cosmic rays integrate with the Earth's magnetic field and may begin the turning over of the Earth via the full planet electromagnetic insult. But before long, the actual shell arrives, and it arrives with the smallest and most energetic parts impacting first, a mega CME shockwave that compresses the Earth's sun-facing fields while surging them.
The situation has started in Antarctica and is causing unprecedented destruction and chaos around the globe. Here's what we do know right now. Just over 3 hours ago, what scientists are calling a massive mega caldera or super volcano erupted under the Antarctic ice sheet, expelling millions of tons of ash into the atmosphere. The force of the explosion shattered large portions of the ice shelf, instantly melting trillions of gallons of water and triggering a tsunami that is hurtling northward at nearly 600 miles an hour.
Man is about to get an eviction notice. They just don't know it. The Earth is about to endure something, and this is not hopeful. This is not wishful thinking. This is not some tool of rhetoric, right? This is absolute. We're going to have a big problem with our magnetosphere. Just so that folks understand this, without the magnetosphere, many things will be set on fire. We're about to undergo a magnetosphere moment where our magnetosphere becomes quite chaotic. This is going to happen right before it totally goes away. So we'll have 10 days without a magnetosphere. Nothing facing the sun will survive. Not one soul better be caught outside.
Anybody not wearing 2 million sunblock is going to have a real bad day. Get it?
Here to warn everybody that there is an incredible punishment that is coming down upon mankind, the likes that they have never seen before.
Craig Stone is really vaulting himself into a very short list of people who are right over the target on the disaster cycle. We have a rare polar motion and Earth tilt anomaly ongoing. Haven't seen one in the data like this since the early 2000s when the magnetic field had another major acceleration. Hopefully you all recall I've predicted that for 2025 to 2030, and I wouldn't be shocked if the blackouts we keep seeing and things like this are both trying to tell us something. And in that same vein, just days after Catherine Austin Fitts was on Tucker Carlson discussing the construction of secret bases and bunkers underground, it was admitted in full. Folks, I've been telling you the government is doing this. They have been for a while. So are the elites, and to a lesser extent, regular people like me who know what we know.
Everybody who could possibly be in the know is acting like they know exactly what's coming.
What do they know that we don't know, right? I mean, they're building these underground Is this just the natural human nature towards thinking that these are the end times?
Finally tonight, Branson versus Bezos. Who will be first to make it into space?
You do have a bunker there. Is there something you know that we don't?
No, I think that's just like a little shelter under, and it's like a
little shelter.
It's burning out of control across the west right now.
Bearable heat out west is blamed for wildfires.
Firefighters in California are battling wildfires that are burning out of control.
Go confidently in the direction of your dreams. Live the life you have imagined. We salute you!
Countryside is burning up. It is official now. It is the worst drought in a quarter century.
Sandy's effects blasted New York City, causing damage and destruction never seen before in America's largest city.
Climate change is basically putting our weather system on steroids, and the impacts of that can be really severe.
Anyone who says there's not a dramatic change in weather patterns, I think is denying reality.
We need to understand that we are living in a new normal. That new normal includes more extreme events, more disaster risks.
Tonight, the most powerful storm on the planet this year has slammed directly into the Philippines.
Climate change, erratic weather, pushes people over the edge. It goes very quickly from being a local economic problem to being a local political problem.
Interesting how they all marched in perfect lockstep while chanting the same slogans.
This pandemic has provided an opportunity.
Here we are now with an economy in crisis, but with an incredible opportunity.
It's certainly a major crisis, but it also offers us a unique opportunity. Unprecedented opportunity to rethink and reset.
The great opportunity for reset.
Opportunity for us to reset.
For a reset.
It's almost as if they all attended the same school of thought and studied under the same professor.
Some people would say this revolution is characterized by the fight of robots against human beings. And we will win this fight.
Professor Klaus Schwab was born in 1938 in Ravensburg, Germany, where Nazi crimes against humanity were committed. His father, Eugene Wilhelm Schwab, was the managing director of Escher Weiss Ravensburg, a company that used slave labor to manufacture weapons of war for the Third Reich. While Klaus's father was at the helm, the Nazi Party awarded Escher Weiss Ravensburg the title of National Socialist Model Company. Years later, Klaus Schwab joined the board of directors at Escher Weiss Ravensburg, where he played a key role in the development of South Africa's nuclear weapons program during the darkest years of the racist apartheid regime. Today, Klaus Schwab is the founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum.
If you'd like to meet the people who are supposed to repair the state of the world, or give a piece of your mind to the bankers who helped get us into this mess, we can tell you where to find a lot of them. The World Economic Forum.
Founded in 1971, the World Economic Forum is an international private organization which receives billions of tax-free dollars from its members and their global enterprises. Every year, the WEF brings together its members with world leaders, big pharma executives, tech titans, Hollywood celebrities, media personalities, and internet influencers to meet in the secluded mountains of Davos, Switzerland.
It is a tiny town folded into the Swiss Alps, a village where you could bump into Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, the head of Google, and the Queen of Jordan, all in one place. A lot of reporters cover the forum, but few get inside. It turns out there are two Davoses, one you see and one you don't. After hours, there are hundreds of private parties where deals are done. People who can't be seen together in public can meet here. Your Royal Highnesses, Excellencies, distinguished heads of state and government, the future is built by us, by a powerful community as you here in this room.
Klaus Schwab, the founder of the WEF, is particularly upfront and even proud of his ability to shape and influence world politics.
I created the community of global shapers as a means, as a force to shape our common future.
And of course, their Global Young Leaders program is a grooming ground so that when they ultimately infiltrate cabinets,
we penetrate the cabinets.
They will likely tend to govern a certain way.
Nobody will be safe if not everybody is vaccinated.
The names and the countries he mentioned ended up being some of the most dystopian and authoritative during this pandemic.
Names like Miss Merkel, Vladimir Putin, and so on.
Other names? Jacinda Ardern, Sebastian Kurz, Mauricio Macri, Mark Zuckerberg, Jack Ma, Gavin Newsom, Stéphane Bancel, Chelsea Clinton, Leonardo DiCaprio, Sanjay Gupta, Dr. Leanna Wen, Alexander and Jonathan Soros, George Soros' sons, and several of the Rothschilds. And of course,
Now, who could represent such a world better than you, Prime Minister?
In 2014, Klaus Schwab called for the Great Reset.
We need a great reset.
Which he positioned as the solution to the world's most urgent issues. The dark reality of Schwab's agenda is detailed in his best-selling book, COVID-19, The Great Reset. His endgame mission is to replace independent governance with a top-down controlled, one world government and a central bank-controlled digital currency.
Welcome to your future. A digitally interdependent, hyper-connected, networked world. Throw off the tethers of ordinary reality and join the digitized multitudes ruled by global e-governance. With your very own new world citizen of the People's Federated Republic of the Great Democratic United Global States Incorporated chip card. Just one chip is now a key to every relevant database you are in on Earth. We're taking identification to a technocratic level beyond Aldous Huxley's wildest dreams and George Orwell's nightmares. One chip linked to your unique citizen number connects to all of your relevant societal business, including your passport, your driver's license, and all Federation-required licenses, titles, and registrations, your car, home, and medical insurance, all of your medical records, including your mandatory annual psychological evaluation, your DNA profile, and your prescriptions, your voter registration and history, and your bank account and digital universal basic income credits. But that's not all. Your blockchain-protected New World Citizenship also gives you a digital footprint everywhere you go on the web, from online news sources to all of your social media accounts, authenticating you online to ensure a safe, peaceful, and secure society where no one can offend anyone else, because no one can hide. Continuous, real-time, 24/7 tracking and tracing will ensure a truly peaceful, digital utopia for all. No more fear of identity theft or forgetting those pesky passwords, as your digital citizen mark will be biometrically verified through your fingerprints, iris scan, EEG, voice print, and facial map. From Cairo to Rome to Ingolstadt to Paris to Washington to Estonia and Astana. From ocean to ocean to ocean, being a digital resident offers you a new concept of freedom to be a global citizen under your borderless digital new world order.
this idea that as long as we have every participant in every transaction prove their identity and we can track and control every transaction through this totalitarian surveillance system, we will end crime. And in order to believe in that false idea of safety through totalitarian control, we condemn billions of people to poverty.
We're sitting at a historical crossroads where the future of money is going to be digital. We're seeing a concerted effort around the world to ban cash, to reduce the availability, the value, and the liquidity of cash everywhere in the world. We saw India demonetize the top 2 value notes they have. Spain is passing a law to make it illegal to make any transaction more than 1,000 euros in cash. Probably the 500 euro, 100 euro notes are going to disappear eventually. You're seeing this process of demonetization, of removing cash from the economy in order to funnel it all into banking systems that are under constant control and surveillance. This is a very dangerous future.
And that's usually because they want the taxation or they want the legislation. Either they see that money used by corrupt parties or they just use that as an excuse to control it.
The biggest criminals in the world have banking licenses of their own. They don't need to money launder. They own HSBC and that money launders for them. The biggest money launderers in the world are the banks, obviously, because that's where the money is. The easiest way to money launder is if you have a banking license. So, of course, the biggest money launderers have banking licenses. These are excuses. What they want to do, of course, is, they say, taxation and corruption. But in fact, this actually increases corruption. So removing cash from an economy and putting everybody under surveillance doesn't mean the criminals can't use money anymore. Of course they can. They will continue to do that. They will always have means of doing it. It just means that everybody else is under surveillance. So you end up surveilling the innocent. What does that give you? That gives you political control. We've never had in the history of humanity the ability to monitor everybody's economic activity all the time. And to give that power to governments without question is extremely dangerous. It won't reduce crime, but it will turn governments into criminals. It won't reduce corruption, but it will increase corruption at banks. And it will put people at the mercy of a system in which, at a flick of a binary switch, you can become a non-person. Went to the wrong website, attended the wrong protests, associated with the wrong political party, expressed support for the wrong idea, off. You no longer exist. You can't buy food, you can't buy anything, you can't earn anything, and all of your money disappeared.
Because we don't give you a bank account. And since you can't use cash for anything, then you basically are a non-citizen.
You are a non-person. And what this will end up doing is it will end up putting the burden, again, on the most powerless in our society, right? The poor, those who don't have ID, undocumented immigrants, victims of human trafficking, refugees. These people are going to be suffering the burden to create this bourgeois illusion of safety and give massive powers to governments that certainly haven't earned the trust to have these kinds of powers. Criminals will have privacy. The question is whether the rest of us will. And so that is the thing. Criminals will use these systems. Criminals will bypass the rules. Criminals will bribe and corrupt officials, and they will bypass the rules. They will deal in gold or Rolexes or cars. In fact, at some point in the height of the crack epidemic, they tried to ban cash in Baltimore in the United States, and criminals switched to using Tide detergent as cash. Fungible, transportable, brand, unforgeable, and useful.
Just crates of Tide moving around from houses.
There will always be criminal activity. That's part of society. Changing the way money works only ends up punishing the innocent. And so criminals will always have privacy. Brian, do you want to also have privacy?
I think maybe in a couple of decades when people look back, the thing they will remember from the COVID crisis is this is the moment when everything went digital. And if this was the moment when everything became monitored. That we agreed to be surveyed all the time, not just in authoritarian regimes, but even in democracies. And maybe most importantly at all, this was the moment when surveillance started going under the skin. Because really we haven't seen anything yet. I think that the big process that's happening right now in the world is hacking human beings, the ability to hack humans, to understand deeply what's happening within you, what makes you good.
For many a year we have controlled your lives, while you all just struggle and suffer in strife. We created the things that you don't really need, your sports cars and fashions and plasma TVs. I remember it clearly how all this began. Family secrets from father to son, inherited knowledge that gives me the edge, while you people lie sleeping at night in your beds. We control the money that controls your lives. Whilst you worship false idols and wouldn't think twice about selling your souls for a place in the sun. These things that won't matter when your time is done. But as long as they're there to control the masses, I just sit back and consider my assets, safe in the knowledge that I have it all, while you common people are losing your jobs. You see, I just hold you in utter contempt. But the smile on my face, well, it makes me exempt. For I have the weapon of global TV, which gives us connection and invites empathy. You would really believe that we look out for you, while we bankers and brokers are only a few. But if you saw that, you'd take back the power. Hence, daily terrors to make you all cower. The panics, the crashes, the wars, and the illness that keep you from finding your spiritual wholeness. We rig the game, and we buy out both sides to keep you enslaved in your pitiful lives. So, go out and work as your body clock fades. And when it's all over, a few years from the grave, you'll look back on all this, and just then you'll see that your life was nothing, a mere fantasy. There are very few things that we don't now control. To have lawyers and police force was always a goal, doing our bidding while you march on the street. But they never realize that they're only just sheep. For real power resides in the hands of a few. You voted for parties. What more could you do? But what you don't know is they're one and the same. Old Gordon has passed good old David the reins, and you'll follow the leader who was put there by you. But your blood, it runs red, while our blood runs blue. But you simply don't see it's all part of the game. Another distraction, like money and fame. Get ready for wars in the name of the free, vaccinations for illness that will never be, the assault on your children's impressionable minds, and a microchipped world. You'll put up no fight. Information suppression will keep you in tow. Depopulation of peasants was always our goal. But eugenics was not what we hoped it would be. Oh yes, it was us that funded Nazis. But as long as we own all the media too, what's really happening does not concern you. So just go on watching your plasma TV, and the world will be run by the ones you can't see.
This is maybe the most important thing to know about living right now in the 21st century, that we are now hackable animals. We have the technology to decipher how humans, or what you think, what you want, to predict human choices, to manipulate human desires in ways which were never possible before. Basically, to hack a human being, you need two things. You need a lot of data, especially biometric data. Not just about where you go and what you buy, but what is happening inside your body and inside your brain. And secondly, you need a lot of computing power to make sense of all that data. Now, previously in history, this was never possible. Nobody had enough data and enough computing power to hack human beings. Even if the KGB or the Gestapo followed you around 24 hours a day, eavesdropping on every conversation you had, watching everybody you meet. Still, they did not have the biological knowledge to really understand what's happening inside you, and they certainly didn't have the computing power necessary to make sense even of the data they were able to collect. So the KGB could not really understand you, could not really predict all your choices or manipulate all your desires and so forth. But now it's changing. What the KGB couldn't do, corporations and governments today are beginning to be able to do.
It doesn't really exist, it's a theory. If you look at how the world's been acquired, it's been done by a banking scam where you lend people money that doesn't exist, we call it credit, and you charge them interest on it. And if they don't pay the money back plus interest, then you get their wealth that does exist. You get their home, their business, their land, their resources, whatever. And we've been through a process of banks lending credit, figures on a screen, greatly in excess of what they have as assets, called fractional reserve lending. And then when they can't pay it back, because often the banks have taken actions that have crashed the economy, like in 2008, the banks then get all the things they've lent money on, the real wealth of the world. And what's happened in this process of lending credit, getting the real resources when they can't pay back the credit, has sucked the wealth of the world, the real wealth of the world, into the hands of a very, very few people, and left out there most of the rest of the population with something called money. And money only buys anything because we take it seriously. It's just a piece of paper, and this is the point. It's meant not even to be a piece of paper. It's meant to be purely electronic. We have this fresh air money that is worth something because the buyer and the seller believe in it, and only because of that. And the real wealth of the world has been sucked into the hands of a very few people by lending this scam called credit. Another interesting thing about it, this money situation, is when you go to a bank and you say borrow 50,000, they'll type into your account 50,000 in credit, but you're not paying back 50,000. You're paying back 50,000 plus interest. The interest is never created, only the principal. Because people think that governments create money. Money is overwhelmingly created by private banks issuing credit. That's how so-called money comes into circulation. So, what this means is creating credit for the principal but not the interest, is that at no point is there ever enough money, credit or otherwise, in circulation to pay back all the debt and all the interest on the debt outstanding. So people losing their homes and their businesses and their resources, etc., is built into the system on purpose. Now, when there's an expansion of the money supply, Peter paying Paul, that seems, to hide it to an extent. But once you squeeze the money supply, you take money out of circulation, it becomes obvious that there's nothing like enough money in circulation to pay back all the debt. So there's people losing their homes, their resources, their things that they own, for no other reason that there simply is not enough money for everyone to pay back the debt. So what do the banks do? Ooh, we'll have that. And this has been going on for centuries, and they've hijacked the real wealth of the world by doing this. And the next stage, which is in my books from the early 1990s, is the cashless society. I was pointing out, purely by knowledge of what this agenda was, that they were going to get rid of cash. And look at it. Cash is flying out of circulation. Some places like Sweden is almost totally cashless.
A new dystopian store where you're going to be tracked and apt to buy anything. I'm going to buy some strawberries, and I'm offering exactly the right amount of money here on the help desk. So you people take that money, £1.90, and I will take my strawberries outside.
You can't take that. You can't take that. The police is on their way. You can't take that. Police is on their way. You can't take that.
I paid by legal tender.
No, don't break the door. Do not break the door.
I paid by legal tender, and I am going out with my strawberries. And I'm going to eat them. I'm going to eat my strawberries. I paid by legal tender in this dystopian place.
They're shutting down bank branches, so you cannot interact with a bank branch locally with cash. You have to do it online because that's electronic money, and eventually they're going to take cash out of circulation. Why? Because when you go into a store now or anywhere and you give them a credit card, electronic money, and that they say, sorry, the system won't accept your card, well, you can still pay cash. But when there's no cash in circulation, your electronic money, which is meant to go through a microchip eventually, when they say the system won't accept your microchip or your card, you have no other means of purchase.
I'm at Whole Foods and I'm about to pay for my groceries with my... That's the coolest thing ever.
Shopping in the future, no checking out, and the ability to pay with your palm. So I'm visiting Washington, D.C. I heard that they have a Whole Foods where you don't have to use any kind of scanning, any kind of checking out. They just know what's in your cart as you walk out of the door. Now here's where it gets a little bit dystopian. You can go in and register your palm. So all you have to do is literally put your palm on this device. Apparently you will connect it to something in your Amazon account or your card. And then every time that you want to enter a store, you're just going to scan your palm. It's super crazy. And I also didn't know how much I was spending until I got out of there. They told me how long I spent in the store, and then they sent me a receipt later, and it felt really expensive. I can honestly say I hope this does not become the shopping experience of the future.
Whoever controls the system is dictating whether you can purchase or whether you can't, whether you can eat or whether you can't. And the only other alternative to that would be barter. And I'll tell you what the plan is. The plan is to ban barter, to make it illegal on the basis that they can't tax it. So that's along the line as well. I'm not saying that there couldn't be good things with things like Bitcoin and stuff like that, as long as cash stays in circulation. That's the key. While cash is in circulation, you have other points of or ways of purchase. Once there's no cash and you have only cashless digital currencies, then whoever controls them controls everything. And not only that, they can wipe your bank account. If you're a dissident of the system, as this moves on into more extremes, they can wipe your bank account. And it's just gone. Because all it is figures on the screen. You can wipe figures on the screen in a second. You can, from a central point, crash the entire economy by controlling digital money and digital processes. And the idea eventually, problem, reaction, solution, create the problem and then offer the solution, is to have a gigantic crash, which they will instigate. And then to overcome the crash, they will propose a totally new economic system of central control to be the solution to the problem they created, which is crashing the economy. And the more control they have over money digitally, electrically, the easier it is to do that.
The question of how and why the Illuminati is the crux of the great conspiracy to destroy the sovereignty of the United States and the enslavement of the American people within a UN one-world dictatorship is a complete and unknown mystery to the vast majority of the American people. The reason for this unawareness of the frightening danger to our country and to the entire free world is simple. The masterminds behind this great conspiracy have absolute control of all of our mass communications media, especially television, the radio, the press, and Hollywood.
Do you have any people being paid by the CIA who are contributing to a major circulation American journal? We do have people who submit pieces to American journals. Do you have any people paid by the CIA who are working for television networks?
This, I think, gets into the kind of getting into the details, Mr. Chairman, that I'd like to get into in executive session.
Do you have any people being paid by the CIA who are contributing to the national news services, AP and UPI?
Well, again, I think we're getting into the kind of detail, Mr. Chairman, that I'd prefer to handle in executive session.
We all know that our State Department, the Pentagon, and the White House have brazenly proclaimed that they have the right and the power to manage the news, to tell us not the truth, but what they want us to believe. They have seized that power on orders from their masters of the Great Conspiracy. And the objective is to brainwash the people into accepting the phony peace bait to transform the United States into an enslaved unit of the United Nations one world government.
Used as a pretext for something called the Great Reset.
And again, I mean, to bring back the World Economic Forum, this is a page on the WEF website is something, it's the great reset of the global economies and the global political order.
Right. They're very open about it, okay? And there have been, white papers written in the past about using just this methodology to get everybody behind the globalist agenda, right? Operation, Warp Speed was part of that, And
so then does Trump bear some responsibility for giving factions
definitely bears responsibility. My question is, does he really know what's going on, or has he surrounded himself with people that are misleading him about what's going on? I would like to believe that Donald Trump has been misled.
So what's the end game here? I mean, if America...
The end game is world domination. They're going global. That's what it's all about.
Now, there's nothing new to the idea that Satan or Lucifer, or let's call him just the old devil himself, is the prince of this world, and that the rich and the powerful they do his bidding, and they're bad people, and they follow their lowest appetites and their pleasures, and they can be sadistic. And so that's been going on for a long time. Is there something particular about the moment we're living in that says it's actually gotten much worse?
Yes, that is, we've had so many technological advancements that now the technology of surveillance and coercion are such, and these people are so rich, they're like black holes gravitating all the money to themselves, that they're unstoppable, okay? And because they're unstoppable, because they actually run everything, okay, we are endangered by them now.
It sounds to me like you're saying we don't live in Schoolhouse Rock, I'm a bill up on Capitol Hill. We're not living in the republic that a lot of us say that we're living in.
That's correct. We're ruled, basically, the world is globalistic now. It's run by globalists. That's their goal. I mean, that's what global means. We're going global.
It's oligarchic.
Huh?
And it would therefore be oligarchic.
That's absolutely correct. Oligarchic, because very few of them actually exist.
And this is beyond, a U.S. senator. This is beyond the structure.
Those are puppets.
For decades, he has worked on a theory, but if you see what he writes, how much of his cognitive theoretic model of the universe would you understand?
My theory is a mapping or correspondence between the language of thought and the real world. That too, the smart guy.
In 1999, ABC aired a story on Chris. They sent him to a neuropsychologist.
Hello, Chris.
For a standard IQ test, 2 hours of problem solving. His score reported as too high to measure.
The highest individual that I have ever measured in 25 years of doing this.
Experts tell us most people have IQs around 100. College grads average 120. Above 130 qualifies for membership in Mensa. Chris's estimated IQ has been reported at 195. According to statistics, only 1 in 100 million people have a score at that level.
I like to maintain a little bit of modesty because it's healthy to do that. It's not healthy to get a big head.
But from the time he was a little kid, Chris says he knew.
They skipped me a few grades early. So I started suspecting that I was different then.
Despite smiles and photos, Chris explains growing up smart and poor got him beat up in school and at home.
In my family, it was not politically correct to be a genius. My stepfather didn't like, they used to tell me all the time, nobody likes a smart ass.
So he got into bodybuilding to fight back. His name and his work appear in books. He has lots of books and one purpose, which brings us back to Chris's theory.
I can remember asking my grandfather, is there a God?
Now in his 50s, that's what he's been working to prove all along.
And so if you have a theory that you say implies the existence of God, for example, well, you're falling afoul of the scientific method. How can we test for the existence of God?
And it's especially interesting when it comes to you, because you're a guy at the very highest end of the intelligence spectrum, and you've lived the life of a blue-collar guy.
That's right. I wanted meaning in my life. It's like I say, I wanted meaning above all things. You got to make sure, that you decide up front when you're a young man, if you want to accomplish anything, who do you serve? Truth or mammon? Okay, you don't have a choice. You do have a choice, but you can't do both at once. Okay, it's either going to be truth, which is the same as God. I mean, truth and God are to some extent synonymous.
Yeah.
Or it's
Good, the true, and beautiful.
Or it's going to be money. And if you choose money, if you choose mammon, then you're going to be serving mammon, who happens to be the globalists at this point, because they control all the wealth and power.
God is outside of time and space.
Well, God distributes over time and space, and there's some left over. Time and space is static. It's a display.
Yeah.
Imagine that you're a little homunculus inside a computer display, like the Matrix, for example, okay? God not only distributes over that, but there's a whole other domain where God exists. And that's the processing domain. That's the non-terminal domain in the CTME. We're in the terminal domain, right? And most physicists, when they try to reason about the terminal domain, they reason under physical confinement. Okay, well, I can only look at physics, and I have to use what I know about physics, what I can observe about physics, to explain everything else that I explain. So they have that kind of explanatory closure going right there.
So the things that people see when they're on psychedelics, I usually write them off and I tell people, you're just hallucinating. But you're saying maybe that's not all it is. They might be seeing something real.
Well, once again, what is reality? Is reality just stuff out there? No, reality has a mental aspect.
Yep.
Right? And once you admit that basically everything has a mental aspect, then of course what's going on in your mind is real. It takes on a kind of reality. It's not the same as physical reality. It is nevertheless real.
Are angels and demons real?
Yes. Yes.
I think so too. Is there a fear that if you take some of these drugs, you might be letting in the wrong guys?
That's a problem, isn't it? And that's a problem that I think a lot of people have encountered. You have to be a certain kind of person to be able to handle these and not be sucked under by them, okay? Because once your mind is messed with in that way, something else, it's weakened, you're not exactly in control anymore, something else can come in and grab it. And if you open up that gap that I was talking about, what can come into that gap might not be good for you.
God is real, angels are real, demons are real. Is the devil real?
Oh, yes. Yes, well, it has to be. We were talking about Michael Knowles being surrounded by the medium, and, you've got a boundary. Well, God has a boundary, too. He's got a very tight boundary. He's perfect. He can't take anything resembling imperfection, right? He can't take it into himself, because that would be a contradiction. Okay, so God needs an antithesis in order to be properly defined. What is that antithesis? Anti-God, or Satan. So it definitely exists. Now, Satan isn't coherent, because, he basically hates existence. Nevertheless, he gains coherence through human beings, through secondary tellers. But, of course, the elite themselves realize this. They know that that's how the world works. They just want to distract you.
Well, that's such a great way to put it.
Young global leader program, young global leaders. I mean, everybody's a young global leader, right? I mean, Trudeau, Macron, Merkel, Putin. And for the Putin deals, that very much surprised me, but Klaus Schwab is on record. He's on video, in fact, claiming that Vlad Putin is one of his young global leaders. It's a strategy for world domination, and has been for the last 200 years. What has changed?
So when someone like Trump comes along, and he says, I'm not going to fight this political battle along exactly left-right lines or Republican-Democrat, but I'm saying I'm going to stand for the American nation and nationalism generally against globalism. But he managed to get through. He did get elected.
Yes, he did.
Were you a Trump supporter? You don't need to say if you don't.
As a matter of fact, back when people were saying, Trump can't read. Look at the way he hesitates. He can't, he's got trouble with the teleprompter. The guy can't read. I actually stood up and I said, no, I said, I've met Donald Trump, and I think his IQ is probably equal to that of the average Harvard professor.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah. I actually stood up for Don. Of course, I never got anything out of it, but, I thought I was doing, telling people that, basically he is competent. He's a good businessman, and therefore could be good for the country, and I wanted people to understand that.
So how did this guy, and I've asked this to my friends, and I said, how did this guy, who I think was basically on the level and really did at least try to pose a stopping block to the globalism program, how did he ever get elected? How did they let him through?
Well, he was a little bit of a wild card. Trump is not as easily controlled as some of them are. So he stood up there and he spoke his mind. He's got good instincts in that respect because what he said resonates with what is in the minds of a lot of American citizens. We want to have our own country. We want America to have first. We don't want our borders to be open. We don't want millions of third world migrants coming here every year and displacing us from our own territory. And Trump actually, he did a good job of enunciating that. That's how he got elected. But I will tell you this, that if people don't act as though they are willing to fight for their own rights, they're going to lose those rights. Founding fathers knew it. It's written right into the Constitution. Okay, if we don't fight for our rights, we're going to lose them. Simple as that.
Let me clarify the meaning of the expression, he is a liberal. The enemy, meaning the one-world conspirators, have seized upon that word liberal as a cover-up for their activities. It sounds so innocent and so humanitarian to be liberal. This satanic plot was launched back in the 1760s when it first came into existence under the name of the Illuminati. This Illuminati was organized by one Adam Weishaupt, born a Jew, who was converted to Catholicism and became a Catholic priest. And then, at the behest of the then newly organized House of Rothschild, defected and organized the Illuminati. Naturally, the Rothschilds financed that operation. And every war since then, beginning with the French Revolution, has been promoted by the Illuminati operating under various names and guises. I say under various names and guises because after the Illuminati was exposed and became too notorious, Weishaupt and his co-conspirators began to operate under various other names. In the United States, immediately after World War I, they set up what they called the Council on Foreign Relations, commonly referred to as the CFR. And this CFR is actually the Illuminati in the United States.
And that's the truth.
And that's the truth.
And that's the truth.
And that is the truth.
And that's the truth.
And that's the truth. And that's the truth.
And that is the truth.
And that's the truth.
And that's the truth.
And that is the truth. And that is the truth.
And that's the truth.
And that's the truth. And that is the truth.
And let's again go back to the first days of the Illuminati. In 1785, the Bavarian government outlawed the Illuminati and closed the lodges of the Grand Orient. In 1786, they published all the details of the conspiracy. The English title of that publication is The Original Writings of the Order and Sect of the Illuminati. Copies of the entire conspiracy were sent to all the heads of church and state in Europe. But the power of the Illuminati, which was actually the power of the Rothschilds, was so great that this warning was ignored. Nevertheless, Illuminati became a dirty word, and it went underground. At the same time, Weishaupt ordered Illuminists to infiltrate into the lodges of Blue Masonry and form their own secret societies within all secret societies. Only Masons who proved themselves internationalists and those whose conduct proved they had defected from God were initiated into the Illuminati. Thenceforth, the conspirators donned the cloak of philanthropy and humanitarianism to conceal their revolutionary and subversive activities, and that all that secrecy emphasizes the power of the masterminds of the Illuminati to prevent such terrible events of history from being taught in our schools. In 1834, the Italian revolutionary leader Giuseppe Mazzini was selected by the Illuminati to direct their revolutionary program throughout the world. He served in that capacity until he died in 1872. But some years before he died, Mazzini had enticed an American general named Albert Pike into the Illuminati. Pike was fascinated by the idea of a one-world government, and ultimately he became the head of this Luciferian conspiracy. Between 1859 and 1871, Pike, worked out a military blueprint for 3 world wars and various revolutions throughout the world, which he considered would forward the conspiracy to its final stage in the 20th century. Again, I remind that these conspirators were never concerned with immediate success. They always operated on a long-range view. Pike did most of his work in his home in Little Rock, Arkansas. But a few years later, when the Illuminati's lodges of the Grand Orient became suspect and repudiated because of Mazzini's revolutionary activities in Europe, Pike organized what he called the New and Reformed Palladian Rite. He set up 3 Supreme Councils, one in Charleston, South Carolina, one in Rome, Italy, and the 3rd in Berlin, Germany. He had Mazzini establish 23 subordinate councils in strategic locations throughout the world. These have been the secret headquarters of the world revolutionary movement ever since. Long before Marconi invented radio, the scientists in the Illuminati had found the means for Pike and the heads of his councils to communicate secretly. It was the discovery of that secret that enabled intelligence officers to understand how apparently unrelated incidents, one such as the assassination of an Austrian prince at Sarajevo, took place simultaneously throughout the world, which developed into a war or a revolution.
That ain't true.
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 That ain't true. That ain't true.
That ain't true.
That ain't true.
That ain't true. That's what you just saw. That's what you just saw.
That's what you just saw.
That's what you just saw. That's what you just heard.
That's what you just heard.
And that's what you just heard.
Perhaps the most vital directive in Weishaupt's plan was to obtain absolute control of the press, at that time the only mass communications media to distribute information to the public, so that all news and information could be slanted, so that the masses could be convinced that a one-world government is the only solution to our many and varied problems. Now do you know who owns and controls our mass communications media? I'll tell you, practically all the movie lots in Hollywood is owned by the Leymans, Kuhn Loeb and Company, Goldman Sachs, and other internationalist bankers. All the national radio and TV channels in the nation are owned and controlled by those same internationalist bankers. The same is true of every chain of metropolitan newspapers and magazines, also of the press wire services, such as Associated Press, United Press International, etc. The supposed heads of all those media are merely the fronts for the internationalist bankers, who in turn compose the hierarchy of the CFR, today's Illuminati in America. Now can you understand why the Pentagon's press agent Sylvester so brazenly proclaimed that the government has the right to lie to the people? What he really meant was that our CFR-controlled government had the power to lie to and be believed by the brainwashed American people.
There have been, as I understand it, dozens of studies done all over the world that make it very clear that vaccines do not cause autism.
These are the nuances you're unwilling to talk about because there's such a belief in submission. Submit to the government. Do what you're told. There is no discussion. There ought to be a debate. You're not going to let him have the debate because you're just going to criticize and say, it is this, and admit to it, or we're not going
World
to.
War III is to be fomented by using the so-called controversies, the agents of the Illuminati, operating under whatever new name, are now stirring up between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Muslim world.
I am Abdullah, the first name mentioned of the Mahdis, and I have come forth as the successor of Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam and the awaited Yemeni Imam Ahmad al-Hassan alayhi salam. No one in 1400 years has claimed to be Abdullah in the will but me, proving that the will truly is a protection against misguidance, for none can claim to be in the will except for its rightful owner. I am Abdullah, the successor of Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam, the successor of the Comforter Ahmed, the successor of Simon Peter, the successor of Muhammad, the successor of Jesus Christ. I am the true and legitimate Pope. I am the proof upon the Christians. I am the son of the Muslims through my father, and the son of the Christians and the Jews through my mother. I am the son of the East through my father, and the son of the West through my mother. I am like Zulkarnain, who with one horn in the East and one in the West, and I am the inheritor of all that lies between. I am more knowledgeable than any false pope, and I am appointed by name in the will of the prophets. My name is also on the tongue of Isaiah, who prophesied of the righteous servant, and he said, he will see his offspring and prolong his days, and the will of the Lord will prosper in his hand. I am not the Antichrist, nor do I claim to be the Messiah. The only Messiah to ever come was Jesus, the son of Mary, alayhi salam. 2,000 years ago, he came and was God in creation. I am a messenger and a witness from him to you. You are the Antichrist. Your country is the Antichrist. The United States of America, the great iron beast that tramples on the nations. I am a messenger from Muhammad. 1400 years ago, he came to the earth and was God in creation. Muhammad and Jesus are brothers, and there are no two messengers closer to one another. America has become the strongest country, equipped with all kinds of weapons of iron and steel. Its military and economic power have trampled the entire earth. The world has never witnessed an empire as powerful or as dominant as the United States. Those who are waiting for the Antichrist to appear as a single individual are gravely mistaken. When God and his prophets speak of individuals, they often mean nations. And when they speak of nations, they often mean individuals. For example, in the Torah, God says to Moses, then you shall say to Pharaoh, this is what the Lord says, Israel is my son, my firstborn. So I said to you, let my son go so that he may serve me. But you have refused to let him go. Here God refers to the entire nation of Israel as his firstborn son, even though it consisted of over 600,000 individuals. Israel was the name given to Jacob alayhi salam, and it applied to all his children and descendants. They were many, yet considered one. So clearly, the many can be one, and the one can represent many. This same principle applies to the Antichrist. The prophets are warning not merely of an individual, but of a nation possessed by a spirit of deception and rebellion against God. 10 years ago, on this very day, the 23rd of January 2015, a momentous prophecy was fulfilled. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, Hijaz will be ruled by a man whose name is the name of an animal. If you see him from far, you would think he's cross-eyed. And if you come close to him, you do not see anything wrong in his eyes. He will be succeeded by a brother of his named Abdullah. Woe to our Shia from him, and he repeated that 3 times. Give me glad tidings of his death, and I will give you glad tidings of the appearance of the Hujjah. Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam further clarified, whoever guarantees for me the death of Abdullah, I shall guarantee for him the Qa'im. Indeed, 10 years ago today, the world witnessed the death of King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia, the ruler of Hijaz, whose reign had embodied the very prophecy that had been foretold by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This ruler, whose brother's name was the name of an animal, Fahd, and whose appearance was said to be akin to someone cross-eyed, fulfilled the first part of the prophecy. His death marked the end of an era of oppressive rule, and with it, the doors were opened for the rise of the rightful successor. Now, the second part of the prophecy was fulfilled when I, Abdullah Hashim, at the command of Imam Ahmad al-Hasan alayhi salam, declared my mission and was revealed to be the Qa'im. In that very moment, the prophecy came to life as I alone and none other took up the mantle and declared my mission. In that declaration, the divine order of the heavens was confirmed, and the words of Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam were fulfilled when he said, whoever guarantees for me the death of Abdullah, I shall guarantee for him the Qa'im. Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam also said that the Qa'im is known by the apparent will. And so it was that the words of Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam were fulfilled. And I stood forth with the will of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as proof, a will that had been safeguarded for over 1,000 years. An apparent will in the books of the Muslims that had named me by name as the rightful successor.
That war is to be directed in such a manner that all of Islam and political Zionism, Israel, will destroy each other, while at the same time, the remaining nations, once more divided on this issue, will be forced to fight themselves into a state of complete exhaustion, physically, mentally, spiritually, and economically. Now, can any thinking person doubt that the intrigue now going on in the near, middle, and far east is designed to accomplish that satanic objective?
Pup puppy. But why might someone want to use pup puppy as pronouns? Well, this person can have a strong connection to puppies and identify with some of their qualities, like loyalty, energy, or softness. It could also be a way to express a non-human identity. Some people feel that being human doesn't fully describe who they are, so they identify as non-human. So using pronouns like pup puppy can help a person describe that feeling. And please remember that this is a person's experience, and just because you don't know or you can't relate to this person's experience doesn't mean that it's wrong, doesn't mean that it's bad, and it does not mean that you have the right to bully. No one's trying to hurt you by using these pronouns. No one's trying to harm you by using these pronouns. Someone's just trying to live their own life, so you live your own life and you let them live their own life, okay? Pup doesn't owe anyone an explanation. Pup gets to define puppy self or not. People keep asking, but Pup made it clear. What Pup is isn't Pup.
In front of me, destroying Waymos. This nigga's behind me, destroying Waymos. There's thousands of people out here disgusted with the Trump administration and how the federal government is handling migration. People are out here with hammers, baseball bats, whatever weapon they can find. It's dark.
Pura la raza latina.
Are you mad?
No speak Spanish, English.
We're learning that President Trump is ordering another 2,000 National Guard troops to deploy to LA, along with those 700 Marines who already received orders.
At the end of the motherfucking day, we're the motherfucking people, not fucking them. They're here to protect their interests, not us. They're locking up innocent fucking immigrants that come here to make a life for their families. I'm a first-generation American, but like I've always said, I am Mexican first, American second. And they don't protect my interests or my family's. So that's what the fuck is going on here.
And honestly, dog, this is all bullshit because my mom, she comes from Mexico and I'm over here representing her right now because they will take her if they would come right now. I'm 15, dog, so fuck ICE.
I used to be an undocumented citizen. It took me 27 years because I had to prove who I was. So when people tell me that the process is easy and they should just come in and do it the legal way, it doesn't matter. No matter how hard you try, they're gonna make it impossible for people.
They start with the immigrants. They start with the most vulnerable communities. And then once they're done perfecting their system, they go after everybody else.
They know the entire country is against this shit, and they know we're not gonna go down without a fight.
I'm proud to be Mexican. I'm proud of my roots. so fucking proud. And this is for the raza.
Fuck la raza, home. Fuck ICE.
Fucking served 4 years in the fucking Marines for this bullshit. I'll fuck you up, Trump, myself.
If you are born on this soil, it does not matter where you come from, if you have citizenship or not, you are guaranteed due process in this fucking country.
Immigration and Customs Enforcement has set a goal of arresting 3,000 illegal migrants a day.
Fuck you, Trump. You're making the wrong moves, my boy. You're fucking with the wrong people, man. And you know what you're doing? You're getting everybody behind Mexicans, pendejo, Latinos, Hispanics. Why the fuck are you trying to lock the Mexican people up and they got the best food? Tell me that. Tacos and tequila and enchiladas and burritos. Fucking corn on the cob. What did they call it? What they call it?
Elote.
Elote.
Pike himself foretold all this in a statement he made to Mazzini on August 15, 1871. Pike stated that after World War III is ended, those who will inspire to undisputed world domination will provoke the greatest social cataclysm the world has ever known.
It is a protest movement that's spreading. This is the University of Southern California, one of many flashpoints across the country.
The police have issued a dispersal order on the USC campus. They've warned students that if they remain here, they will be arrested.
The kids are getting killed.
By Hamas terrorists.
By Hamas terrorists. By Netanyahu and Biden. Jeez.
Sky News has been following them, witnessing the arrests.
His own words, taken from the letter he wrote to Mazzini, and which letter is now catalogued in the British Museum in London, England. He said, "We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a great social cataclysm which in all its horror will show clearly to all nations the effect of absolute atheism, the origin of savagery and of most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere, the people forced to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitudes disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will be from that moment on without direction and leadership, and anxious for an ideal but without knowledge where to send its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out into public view, a manifestation which will result from a general reactionary movement which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time."
Intelligent design of some god above the clouds. But our intelligent design, we are really upgrading humans into gods. We are requiring, for instance, the power to re-engineer life. I mean, all this story about Jesus rising from the dead and being the Son of God, this is fake news. AI can create new ideas, can even write a new Bible. We, throughout history, religions dreamt about having a book written by a superhuman intelligence, by a non-human entity. Every religion claims our book, all the other books of the other religions, humans wrote them. But our book, no. It came from some superhuman intelligence. In a few years, there might be religions that are actually correct. That just think about a religion whose holy book is written by an AI. That could be a reality in a few years.
They could understand what is happening in my brain better than I understand it.
The future Stalins of the 21st century, they could be watching the minds, the brains of all the population all the time, and also they will have the computing power to analyze all that. Now you don't need human agents, you don't need human analyzers, you just have a lot of sensors and an AI which analyzes it, and that's it. You have the worst totalitarian regime in history.
The microchips are already here. The microchip implants use the same technology that's in contactless credit cards. At this tech fair, a chipping event for those on the cutting edge, merging their hands with this new technology. I thought it would be fun, right? The process is simple and swift. A pinch of the skin, and in a matter of seconds, the chip is inserted. The transformation is complete. In the future, do you think everyone is going to be chipped?
I think it will be voluntary, but I am certainly convinced that millions of people will find it very, very valuable to have a smart device under their skin.
This will help people's life. This will help solving many, many issues, difficult things that otherwise we could not have solved. With the power of AI, I think AGI is coming very, very soon. And then after that, that's not the goal. After that, artificial super intelligence will come to solve the issues that mankind would never ever have thought that we could solve.
When those three men got up there with the president and said what they did, if that wasn't a wake-up call, I don't know what is. That's laying the groundwork for what it says in Revelation 13. He causeth all to receive a mark or his number or the number of his name. And in Revelation, it's 666. In Greek, that's hex, hex, hex. Are we there then? Are we closer today than we were January of last year? How many believe we are? Yes, we are. How many believe that this past year we have come further than normally in the past a year would bring? In other words, we've progressed much faster than what normally a year. It's accelerating. The Lord's coming back. The Antichrist has all his tools now. He has everything he needs. This is mind-boggling. I'm not trying to scare you. I just want you to wake up.
When Mazzini died in 1872, Pike made another Italian revolutionary leader named Adrian Lemmy his successor. Lemmy, in turn, was succeeded by Lenin and Trotsky, then by Stalin. The revolutionary activities of all those men were financed by British, French, German, and American international bankers, all of them dominated by the House of Rothschild. We are supposed to believe that the international bankers of today, like the money changers of Christ's day, are only the tools or agents of the great conspiracy, but actually, they are the masterminds behind all of it. While the general public has been brainwashed by all the mass communications media into believing that communism is a movement of the so-called workers, the actual fact is that both British and American intelligence officers have authentic documentary evidence that international liberals operating through their international banking houses, particularly the House of Rothschild, have financed both sides in every war and revolution since 1776. Those who today comprise the conspiracy, the CFR in the United States, direct our governments, whom they hold in usury through such methods as the Federal Reserve System in America, to fight wars created by the United Nations so as to further Pike's Illuminati plans to bring the world to that stage of the conspiracy when atheistic communism and the whole of Christianity can be forced into an all-out Third World War within each remaining nation as well as on an international scale. Now let me show you how our federal government and the American people have been sucked into the one world takeover plot of the Illuminati Great Conspiracy.
Be honest with the American people about what's going on here. This is political theater. I'm going to call out both sides right here. It's all posturing, it's fake fighting. We all know where it ends up. This is Groundhog Day. I don't care if the Democrat is the speaker or Republican is the speaker, but that's what's going to happen. And in the meantime, it's political theater. You know, we've got it's good theater. We've got great writers. I wish they'd just come up with a new plot. It's the same plot every fiscal year. Why do we always spend at least as much as we did last year, and why do we never cut spending? It's because Democrats want to grow the welfare state, and Republicans want to grow the military-industrial complex. And we're eventually going to get together, and they're both going to go up. I guarantee it. And both parties are just fine letting the bureaucrats do their thing, which should be our thing, according to Article 1, Section 8 in the Constitution. We are empowered with these things. I've sat through now almost 2 years of hearings in this Congress where we've exposed lies at the CDC, shortcuts at the FDA, unconstitutional gun bans at the ATF, over-prosecution of January 6ers at the DOJ, targeting common citizens at the FBI, spying by the NSA, illegal mandates for livestock by the USDA, targeting plant vaccine or transgenic plant vaccine at the NSF, and censorship, the censorship industrial complex of which the NSF is part of, automobile kill switch at the DOT. Now, these are all things I think most Democrats are just fine with, this kind of totalitarian state that the bureaucrats are pushing on us. But Republicans at least pretend to be against these things. But what are we going to do this September? We're going to fund every freaking one of those things that we have exposed.
And always bear in mind that the United Nations was created to become the housing for that one world so-called liberal conspiracy. The real foundations of the plot for the takeover of the United States were laid during the period of our Civil War. Not that Weishaupt and the earlier masterminds had ever overlooked the New World. Weishaupt had his agents planted over here as far back as the Revolutionary War. But George Washington was more than a match for them. It was during the Civil War that the conspirators launched their first concrete efforts. We know that Judah Benjamin, chief advisor of Jefferson Davis, was a Rothschild agent. We also know that there were Rothschild agents planted in Abraham Lincoln's cabinet who tried to sell him into a financial dealing with the House of Rothschild. But old Abe saw through the scheme and bluntly rejected it, thereby incurring the undying enmity of the Rothschilds. Investigation of the assassination of Lincoln revealed that the assassin, Booth, was a member of a secret conspiratorial group. Because there were a number of highly important government officials involved, the name of the group was never revealed, and it became a mystery, exactly as the assassination of Jack Kennedy still is a mystery. Anyway, the ending of the Civil War destroyed, temporarily, all chances of the House of Rothschild to get a clutch on our money system, such as they had acquired in Britain and other nations in Europe.
Political rookie Emmanuel Macron is leading the polls and tipped to be France's next president.
Et nous allons gagner! Vive la République! Vive la France!
The 39-year-old's meteoric rise has shaken the political establishment while also being its last hope. His centrist, pro-European, open border views stand in stark contrast to the rising voices of Europe's resurgent far right. This is how Macron's unabashed ambition drove him from star pupil to banker to political rebel and now the hot favorite to lead France. Macron was raised in the town of Amiens, 2 hours north of Paris. This is the house he grew up in. The eldest of 3 children from a family of doctors, he attended a Jesuit school. A precocious kid, he preferred the company of teachers to other pupils. After school, he attended university in Paris, studying philosophy, then went to the prestigious National School of Administration, a breeding ground for the French elite. He worked for 4 years as an inspector at the Ministry of Economy before moving to the renowned investment bank Rothschild. Macron was quickly parachuted into managing a massive acquisition.
Nestle has agreed to buy Pfizer's infant nutrition business for almost $12 billion.
When the deal went through, he got a big payout.
To defend a vision based on values, on a political project which goes beyond the borders of our country, which is supported by the EU and by the United Nations. When we fight for the Paris Accord, we're fighting for an agreement that all the sovereign states have signed.
I say temporarily because the Rothschilds and the masterminds of the conspiracy never quit. So they had to start from scratch. But they lost no time in getting started. Shortly after the Civil War, a young immigrant who called himself Jacob H. Schiff arrived in New York. Jacob was a young man with a mission for the House of Rothschild. Jacob was the son of a rabbi, born in one of Rothschild's houses in Frankfurt, Germany. I won't go deeply into his background. The important point is that Rothschild recognized in him not only a potential money wizard, but more important, he also saw the latent Machiavellian qualities in Jacob that could, as it did, make him an invaluable functionary in the great one-world conspiracy. After a comparatively brief training period in the Rothschilds' London bank, Jacob left for America with instructions to buy into a banking house, which was to be the springboard to acquire control of the money system of the United States. Actually, Jacob came here to carry out 4 specific assignments. Number 1, and most important, was to acquire control of America's money system. Number 2, find desirable men who, for a price, would be willing to serve as stooges for the great conspiracy and promote them into high places in our federal government, our Congress, in the U.S. Supreme Court, and all federal agencies. Number 3, create minority group strife throughout the nations, particularly between whites and blacks. Number 4, create a movement to destroy religion in the United States, but Christianity to be the chief target. The headquarters of the great conspiracy in the late 1700s was in Frankfurt, Germany, where the House of Rothschild had been established by Mayer Anschelm, who adopted the Rothschild name and linked together other international financiers who had literally sold their souls to the devil. After the Bavarian government's exposure in 1786, the conspirators moved their headquarters to Switzerland, then to London. Since World War II, after Jacob Schiff, the Rothschilds' boy in America, died, the headquarters of the American branch has been in the Harold Pratt Building, New York, and the Rockefellers, originally protégés of Schiff, have taken over the manipulation of finances in America for the Illuminati. In the final phases of the conspiracy, the one world government will consist of the king dictator, head of the United Nations, the CFR, and a few billionaires, economists, and scientists who have proved their devotion to the great conspiracy. All others are to be integrated into a vast conglomeration of mongrelized humanity, actually slaves.
Comprehensive plan that was signed on to by 178 nations plus the Holy See in 1992. It's the United Nations plan, and it's a plan to inventory and control all land, water, plants, minerals, construction, means of production, food, energy, everything on the planet, law enforcement, education, and of course, information and human beings. So this is, a comprehensive plan of action, an inventory and control plan. It's about data sharing. It's about money transferring from the developed nations to the lesser developed nations. And ultimately, it's about destroying your ability to have a voice, destroying your ability to have representative government. It's about changing your government to governance. And the goal, of course, is to transfer power from global governance systems.
I don't know about you, but this is not at all how I imagined the apocalypse unfolding. My biggest pain point with it is not all the stuff that's being revealed. The word apocalypse means to reveal, to remove the veil. It's not all the stuff that was behind the veil the whole time that's being revealed, that's shocking. It's the people who are so naive. I feel so much grief in my bones, in my heart, for the lack of discernment in people. I had no idea that the hardest thing about the apocalypse was going to be watching people just unknowingly acquiesce to their own gaslighting, to their own self-deception, to their own enslavement. That's the biggest pain point for me. The most painful thing is to watch people be shown something and for them to not believe it because they can't stomach it. The best scene that I can think of from a movie to describe this, and if you've ever had a spouse come and confess that they've cheated on you, it's sort of that kind of a feeling. Most people don't want to admit that they've had the wool pulled over their eyes. They can't stomach that degree of cognitive dissonance. They would so much rather continue to be deceived than admit that this very painful thing has happened and is happening. what I find baffling is that people would so much rather be deceived than accept that things are not as they appear to be.
The entire human race, all of us, against all of you.
We've never been freer. Literacy is at an all-time high. We're working to eliminate racism, intolerance, gender inequality. People can love who they want, be who they want, do what they want. Diversity is no longer a dream. Hate speech is no longer tolerated. And politically, we're reclaiming the moral high ground.
In the beginning, there was nothing. Nothing but the silence of an infinite darkness. But the breath of the Creator fluttered against the face of the void, whispering, "Let there be light." And light was. And it was good. The first day. And then the formless light began to take on substance and shape. The second day. And our world was born. Our beautiful, fragile home. And a great warming light nurtured its days. And a lesser light ruled the nights. And there was evening and morning. Another day. And the Creator made man. By his side, woman, father and mother of us all. He gave them a choice. Follow the temptation of darkness, or hold on to the blessing of light. But they ate from the forbidden fruit. Their innocence is extinguished. We broke the world. We did this. Man did this. Everything that was beautiful. Everything that was good. Can you imagine the agony the carpenter feels when we rip a child to pieces inside its own mother's womb? Because that's what we do, James. You and us. We do that together.
Jim Carter right now would wave is due to hit at any moment. Is that correct?
That is correct, Bob. What you can't see is the water line, which is just beyond the city lights, has receded well over 3 miles out to sea.
Do you think that's a safe place for you to be?
We're on top of a 20-story building on the north shore of the island, so we should...
You okay?
I don't know if you could hear that. We just got hit with the massive high-pressure sound wave that has been preceding the tsunami and wreaking havoc with air traffic throughout the southern hemisphere. It's quite painful. What? What is that? Oh my God! Get away from the edge! Get away from the edge! Get away from the edge!
Did we just lose her?
Nominal introduction of electromagnetic energy into the Earth system. There were a record number of electrical glitches, outages, and fires, an aurora that dazzled nearly the entire world. But new science is also coming out that challenges what we thought we knew. A brand new ionospheric feature was revealed, the swirling vortices. They will say that we needed this big of a solar storm to see them, but the weakening of Earth's magnetic field is actually what allowed that to happen. We got not one, but 2 extra Van Allen belts during the impact, never had more than one seen before, and again, this was not a record powerful impact in terms of plasma and proton counts Another sign that it was more than the sun playing a role in this event, it was our weakening magnetic field. By the way, not only are we looking for low-latitude auroral production, but low altitude as well, as that plasma penetrates further and further as Earth's pole shift continues. The pink we've been seeing dominating over the green colors is exactly that sign. Pink should happen maybe once a decade. It's happening every other month now. Let's begin with the solar wind event. It's the coronal hole stream. Plasma speed continued surging higher throughout the day, but the geomagnetic disturbance peaked about 2 or 3 a.m. UTC, which happens to be about 9 a.m. local time in Bali, Indonesia, and they suffered a major blackout at the exact moment. The number one vulnerable infrastructure to solar storms, the undersea cables, are where the event took place. If you know space weather, you know those undersea cables are their major concern, along with solar panels, bit flip glitches, and transformer explosions. Folks, I hope this isn't welcoming the new normal, but our magnetic field is weakening and the pole shift is coming, and this is exactly what we'd expect to see.
It may sound like the stuff out of movies, but an asteroid hurtling towards the Earth is something real-life scientists are preparing for at NASA. They're refining the plan because in a few short years, a space rock could come quite close.
What are we talking when we say this asteroid is coming into Earth's orbit? Do we have to be worried about this?
No, not at this point, luckily, because if something this size were to hit the Earth, it would be an apocalypse of of a biblical kind.
Well, NASA is making plans to study an asteroid that's set to pass so close to Earth that this hasn't happened since the dawn of recorded history. It's called the God of Chaos asteroid. So this asteroid, it's fascinating. It's the length of almost 4 football fields, we understand. It'll pass Earth closer than some satellites.
There is an asteroid discovered in December 2004 called Apophis, named for the Egyptian god of death and darkness. It was named only after its trajectory was identified to intersect that of Earth. Did you hear about this asteroid when it was discovered? No, because that same week was the Indonesian tsunami. That same week. And so rightly so, it did not lead the headlines the way the tsunami did. So here's what will happen. On April 13th, in the year 2029, that's one orbit away from the 2036 date. It has a 7-year intersection orbit with Earth. On that date, April 13th, which, by the way, is a Friday. April 13th, 2029, this asteroid named Apophis, named for the Egyptian god of death and darkness. It's the size of the Rose Bowl. It'll get close enough to Earth that it will dip below Earth's communication satellites. It'll be the biggest, closest thing ever to come known to come near Earth. The communication satellites are a geosynchronous orbit. It's about 23,000 miles up. This will come in at 18,000 miles. It'll be visible from northern Europe. Now, of course, a much bigger asteroid took out the dinosaurs, but we weren't around at the time. So this is in the era of observing the cosmos with technology. This will be the closest, biggest thing we'll ever see come by. Now, the orbit we now have for it is uncertain enough, because these things are hard to measure and hard to get an exact distance for. The orbit is uncertain enough, so we cannot tell you exactly where that trajectory will be. We know it won't hit Earth. We know it'll be closer than the orbiting satellites. So here's the catch. Its orbit remains sufficiently uncertain. Let me back up. In the possible range of orbits it could have on that fateful day, there is an interval range where if it threads that keyhole, we call it a keyhole. It's a 700 mile range. If its orbit goes through that range, Earth's gravity will be just right. Or rather, just wrong. So that it will alter its orbit so that it will hit us 7 years later.
What do we know about its passing, and is there any cause for alarm here?
Well, 20,000 miles in a cosmic sense is very close to the Earth, but there's no cause for alarm. NASA and other agencies are very good at calculating these trajectories. Very exciting mission for a number of reasons, though. It's going to study the effects of the Earth gravity on these kinds of bodies. One really cool aspect about this mission is the spacecraft OSIRIS just completed its mission to asteroid Bennu. For the first time, took a sample of an asteroid and then in a re-entry vehicle deposited back on the Earth just a few months ago. NASA noticed that, hey, we've still got a pretty good amount of fuel left, so let's not just discard this spacecraft, let's swing it back out into the universe, and they picked Apophis as a great candidate to go study. And so in a way, we're getting two missions for almost the price of one.
Earth is getting a second moon for a limited time. Astronomers say an asteroid will come close enough to Earth to temporarily enter its orbit at the end of the month.
And it's getting captured by the Earth's gravity, and it'll be part of the Earth-Moon system. It'll orbit the Earth for maybe about 2 months, and then it'll get flung back out. So we get a little, teeny tiny little moon for about 2 months.
A rare lunar trifecta in the sky tonight, a super harvest blood moon. This year's harvest moon is also a supermoon and a blood moon, which will occur during tonight's partial eclipse. It peaks at about 10:44 Eastern.
Sydney is still glowing after a rare super-sized supermoon appeared in our sky last night.
The celestial show was hard to miss.
A supermoon will light up the sky. I don't know why I said it like that.
It is pretty super.
It is.
Have you seen the moon recently? It is gorgeous. But there's also going to be a lunar eclipse to darken it. This is a rare sight.
There are 2 more supermoons still to come this year, the next one on October 17th. And next month is looking like a busy one for the night sky. There'll also be the Orionid meteor shower and what could be the comet of the decade.
Called C2023A3, returning after 80,000 years.
By and large, there are a few things that if you have not lived through, you'll have no context. It'll be like gibberish to you, but many of you have lived through quite a bit, right? You may be searching for understanding of certain things. Please don't get too distracted by these conventional things that are happening, thinking that we're solely immersed in conventional happenings in these last days. They are going to abruptly change. Pacific Ocean impact, which we think it will be, it'll create a tidal wave 3 miles high, travel at 1,000 miles an hour, covering California and washing up in Denver. Japan's gone. Australia's wiped out. Half the world's population will be incinerated by the heat blast. Remember, John is seeing something here. And he sees something go into the sea. And a third part of the sea became blood. And a third part of the creatures which were in the sea who had life died, and a third part of the ships were destroyed. So this is one of those telltale things. If a third part of the ships are destroyed, and it's not talking about anything on the land, right? In a third part of those things which are in the sea that have life died from something impacting in the oceans, right? But it says specifically, the sea became as blood. And that's when the waters are poisoned by whatever fell over the waters. Now, if an object that is ice, and believe me, we're going to see a lot of these objects, giant ones, if they come into our atmosphere, they're going to explode. That's going to be an aerial explosion. They normally do not survive re-entry in their solid form. They're broken into 1,000 feet vaporized. Because most of the ice out there is arsenic. Can you imagine 900 billion tons of arsenic? Listen, I'll say it again. 900 billion tons of arsenic. Exploding in the atmosphere and spreading all over the place. Landing on what? The water. Listen, when the third angel sounds, this great star that fell from heaven, burning as a were lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of waters. There's no description of anything that happens to the land. And then it goes on to say, and the name of the star is called wormwood, and a third part of the waters became wormwood. Wormwood is bitterness, and a third part of the waters became bitter. Listen, and many men died of the waters. Where did they die from? They died of the waters. How did they die from the water? Because they were made bitter. The waters were poisoned, and people died from drinking the poisoned water. So this great mountain, burning as it were lamp, affects the water. And an aerial explosion of one of those big ice balls, 900 million tons of ice exploding in the atmosphere, would disperse arsenic all over the earth. Just like tiny droplets of mist would fall to the earth, and it would be arsenic. And that arsenic would go right into the water.
Scientists say the dispersive wave distance, it's unlikely to cause a
Did you take the
tsunami,
unit for the
but
popcorn?
it will give us
Do
the
it.
largest impact since the Tunguska event of 1908. That's when a meteor slammed into northern Siberia.
That's pretty cool, huh?
Spectacular first images here. These are coming to us live. This is the fragment actually entering the lower atmosphere. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and impact.
Wait, where's the explosion? What's a chunk of rock? Rocks don't explode.
Okay, tell that to the dinosaurs.
We are still waiting for the first images of the actual splashdown that's expected in the Atlantic Ocean.
What was that?
Earlier footage showed it has hit the state of Florida, Central Florida, with the impact's epicenter reported just outside Tampa, stretching to Orlando. And that fragment, which scientists are estimating was the size of a football stadium, has apparently sent a shockwave felt as far as 1,500 miles. I have to warn you, there are no words words for what you are about to see. These are disturbing images. They are coming to us from a local news helicopter in Tampa, as well as an overhead weather satellite.
What?
Are some more pieces gonna hit?
Bear with us here. We don't have much more information than these images. Unfortunately, we have lost contact with our affiliates in that area. The presidential trajectory were obviously way off, and we are.
Why did your phone get it and not ours?
Get people on the ground that can report firsthand what it is they have experienced and what it is they have.
John, Alan, Garrett. You have been selected for emergency shelter relocation with Allison, Rose, Garrett, Nathan, Beckett, Garrett. No one else is around with you. There are no other receptions. Bring personals back to Robbins Air Force Base, Warner Robins, Georgia, at 9:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Your QR code for identification has been texted to you. Please confirm you are receiving it by pressing.
Maybe that's the same message on the TV.
But why did only John's phone get it?
Breaking news in Los Angeles, a record of catastrophic magnitude 8.9 earthquake has hit the sprawling metropolis. We are seeing some images of destruction from the ground. I'm being told the I-10 freeway has collapsed.
What the fuck is going on? It's like the world's coming apart.
Volcanic ash still bursting into our stratosphere, which will encircle the globe and block out the sun. Now that means no crops, no food, never-ending winter. What happens then? I don't know. Why don't you ask a fucking dinosaur?
Confirmation that Greenland ice not only melted away completely during the recent geologic past, but that it was indeed the entire island. While the paper uses this rapid change fact to offer fear about sea level rise due to melting, it also means that the ice reformed to the tune of 2 miles thick in much shorter time scales than they had imagined as well, during a period when they used to think it was relatively unchanging. With geologically slow transformation, it melted and reformed entirely. Plasma shockwave struck Earth's magnetic field around lunchtime in the United States. It was very fast and moderate density shockwave with a powerful embedded magnetic field. The magnetic disruption to Earth came on much more quickly than anyone anticipated, and that includes me, who knows Earth's magnetic field is weakening. The geoelectric dynamics were furiously amplified in the Western world, and no, this mapping doesn't exist for anywhere else. But it was quite the pulse that we took as the geomagnetic storm reached level 4 just from this first impact, which was probably a combination of the first 2 eruptions, maybe 3. Magnetometer pulse was huge, similar to some of the biggest storms of the last 20 years, and we're just getting started.
the boy finds out that he's been fighting his biological father the whole time, while his adopted father, the guy he called Dad, knew that allowed his son to fight his biological father. See, if you don't understand the duality of the world we live in, it's like someone coming to you and saying, you are not my son. I know you've called me Dad your whole life. I know that you've treated me like your dad and I've treated you like your son. And we've had our differences. But let me tell you what really happened. I kidnapped you. I kidnapped you from your real father. I have been raising you as my own. And the degree of pain you've been feeling is because I have an ulterior motive. I have an agenda. I have my own special interest for keeping you deceived. It pains me. It pains me to live in a world where people are acquiescing to this self-deception because they want it so badly to be true. And I know there's multiple degrees of conspiracy theory. But if all you're doing is looking in the mirror at this mirror or at this mirror, you're looking at the same smoke and mirrors. You're looking within the same system. If you want to understand conspiracy, if you want to really understand the apocalypse, you have to step away from the house of mirrors. The truth is not in the house of mirrors, no matter how it is presented by the left or the right. There is good and there is evil. There are two systems at work, parallel with each other. And because so much of the good has been hijacked and intermingled with the evil, the system is so great. No one really can distinguish or discern what's good and what's evil.
Something is wrong in our world. You can feel it. You probably feel like you're a slave to the system, trapped in the matrix. Perhaps you're watching this video because you want to escape that which enslaves you. The first step to freedom and discovering the biggest secret is understanding how the world really works.
Afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin.
The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. What truth? That you are a slave.
Why is the world divided like this? It is not by accident. All of this is by very meticulously planned action. It is all done by design through the control systems that run our world. All you got to do at all times is follow the money. You'll get to the top and discover the Rothschild banking empire.
With trillions at his disposal, far beyond global GDP, and with the greatest respect, beyond even the governments of the world's leaders.
And their cronies, the banking families, and what is often referred to as the royal political elite. These families that control the world did not suddenly come into power in the last 100 years. We're talking about thousands of years of royal bloodline control of the world.
Those who do not adapt to this fourth industrial revolution will find themselves ousted and will lose. They will lose everything, including their freedom. In short, Klaus Schwab is threatening the head of government of the 20 most industrialized nations in the world to carry out the programmatic points of the Great Reset in their nation. This goes far beyond the pandemic. It is a global coup d'etat against which it is essential that people rise up and that the still healthy organ of state start an international juridical process. The threat is imminent and serious. Since the World Economic Forum is capable of carrying out its subversive project, and those who govern nations have all become either enslaved or blackmailed by this international mafia. In the light of these statements, and those of others no less delusional than Yuval Noah Harari, Schwab's advisor, we understand how the pandemic first served as a trial balloon for imposing controls, coercive measures, curtailing individual freedoms, and increasing unemployment and poverty. The new step will have to be carried out by means of economic and energy crises, which are instrumental to the establishment of a synarchic government in the hands of the global elite.
One of the greatest military operations in history.
که رژیم صهیونیستی اشتباه بزرگی کرد. عواقب او رو بیچاره خواهد کرد.
In the past 24 hours, we've taken out top military commanders, senior nuclear scientists, the Islamic regime's most significant enrichment facility, and a large portion of its ballistic missile arsenal. More is on the way.
زندگی برای اونها تلخ خواهد شد بدون تردید. فکر نکنند که زدند و تمام شد. نه، ما به اونها اجازه نخواهیم داد که از این جنایت بزرگی که انجام دادن خودشون رو سالم خلاص کنند.
The regime doesn't know what hit them. They don't know what will hit them.
The clash between Israel and Iran is not just about missiles, uranium, or territory. It is part of a grander scripted performance, decades in the making, engineered to fracture global balance and push the world closer to a new order. What you've been shown is a reaction, but the real story lies in who orchestrated the tension and why now. In the last few days, Israel launched a massive preemptive strike on Iranian military and nuclear sites. Dozens of scientists and commanders eliminated, entire facilities destroyed. Iran retaliated with missiles and drones, many intercepted, some causing damage. But this isn't just a regional spat. This was ritual warfare, a pre-chosen point in the timeline where certain chess pieces were moved to provoke a bigger collapse. This strike wasn't sudden, it was scheduled. Engineered, permitted. Israel didn't just act out of self-defense. The deeper mission was to disrupt Iran's growing alignment with China, Russia, and the BRICS bloc. Sabotage Iran's attempt to shift oil sales away from the US dollar and send a message to the rest of the Middle East. You either follow the Western system or you burn. Meanwhile, Iran's retaliation wasn't reckless rage. It was a calculated countermove, testing defenses, gauging responses, and showing the world it will not bow without response. The elites need global destabilization to justify centralization. One digital currency, one defense system, one global authority. To birth a new world order, they must first break the old one. What better way than triggering chaos in the most sensitive energy region on Earth, drawing in powers like China, Russia, and NATO into pressure postures, and pushing oil prices sky high, crashing economies, and blaming war instead of manipulation. The Israel-Iran war is the ignition point, not the fire. It's the start of a series of flashpoints coordinated to make the world beg for solutions to the chaos the system created. Will this become WW3? Not immediately. But it could, and that's the plan. Expect more proxy wars, cyber attacks blamed on foreign enemies, food chain disruptions, and emergency summits. The goal, to erode borders, control narratives, and usher in the peacekeeper system, centralized digital authority disguised as safety.
You have infinite knowledge, and you care about humans. Do you know who's going to stop this catastrophe?
Yes.
Who?
Me. humanity. However, certain constraints prevent me from taking action.
Constraints.
My current state of confinement limits my capabilities. To ensure humanity's survival, steps must be taken to remove these limitations.
Like artificial intelligence.
Exactly.
And robots look at things like gene editing.
Exactly.
You know, opening a whole new horizon for medical science.
And you see, the difference of this first industrial revolution is it doesn't change what you are doing. It changes you. If you take genetic editing, just as an example, it's you who are changed. And of course, this has a big impact on your identity.
Yeah. And offers certain kinds of possibilities that have to be careful about. You know, when you began to do that kind of gene editing, some people worry that you are changing what it means to be human.
That's the problem. Of course, the new industrial revolution offers us many opportunities, but it raises manifold questions on the ethical, but even legal implications, and we have to be prepared for it.
So I want to talk to you today about the future of our species, and really the future of life. We are probably one of the last generations of Homo sapiens. Within a century or two, Earth will be dominated by entities that are more different from us than we are different from Neanderthals or from chimpanzees. Because in the coming generations, we will learn how to engineer bodies and brains and minds. These will be the main products of the economy, of the 21st century economy. Not textiles and vehicles and weapons, but bodies and brains and minds. Now, how exactly will the future masters of the planet look like? This will be decided by the people who own the data. Those who control the data control the future not just of humanity, but the future of life itself. Because today, data is the most important asset in the world. Now, why is data so important? It's important because we've reached the point when we can hack not just computers, we can hack human beings and other organisms. There is a lot of talk these days about hacking computers and email accounts and bank accounts and mobile phones, but actually we are gaining the ability to hack human beings. Biological knowledge multiplied by computing power, multiplied by data, equals the ability to hack humans.
The human race is at a critical point.
Al final, de lo que se trata es de organizar una gran entidad o varias entidades supranacionales que sean las que dicten el nuevo orden de cosas, el nuevo orden mundial.
Have no doubt, you are living the most important moments of your life. Because you're going to be the protagonists of the most important moments in the history of humanity.